In this video, I'll show you everything you need to know to make a beautiful professional website with Squarespace, which is by far one of the most popular and one of the best ways to make a website. It doesn't matter if you're making one for your business, a fundraiser, a personal, whatever you're doing, it really doesn't matter. Squarespace is a great way to make not only a professional looking website, but also a very functional one. And so in this video, like I said, this is a step-by-step tutorial. If you're an absolute beginner and know nothing about websites, I'll show you everything you need to know. And by the end of this video, I guarantee if you watch and fully understand everything I talk about, you will have all the tools you need to make your own professional website without hiring a web developer, without having to learn the technical jargon of domains and hosting and all the back-end stuff. With Squarespace, it really is as easy as, say, making a PowerPoint or a Word document. If you can use literally anything on your computer, you can make a Squarespace website. So with that being said, guys, we have a lot to cover in this video. Let's jump into it. We're gonna go over to my desktop and start off with the link in the top of the description below. So if you guys wanna go down there and click on that link or copy and paste it into a new tab, we'll get started from my desktop. That way we're making sure that everybody's starting off on the same page and you're getting the same discounts, the same everything that I'm going to show you in this video. All right, so here we are on my desktop and you should have been redirected to this page. If you weren't, you can just open up a new tab and go to santrelmedia.com/Squarespace, hit enter, you'll see it'll bring you back to this page right here. So I'll give you guys a second to do that just to make sure we all start at the same page right here, have the same buttons, and go through the same exact process. Now, don't be alarmed if it looks slightly different. They might change the picture in the background. Squarespace does that from time to time. Similarly, they might change the color or the font, but the point is you should see Get Started and Login on the top. Before we go to get started, let's first go to login. If you already have an account, you can just sign in right now. I assume most people probably do not have an account, so we are going to create a new account. And again, you can continue with Google, Apple, or just email. That's what I'm going to do to sign up individually. So I'm going to type in my name, and then we're going to say tutorials@gmail.com or at santrelmedia.com. And we're going to use a strong password, and then we're going to say continue. So this will allow us to create our account. And then once you go to create your account, it'll bring you to this page right here. If you click get started, it should probably bring you to this page anyway. So no matter what, we'll be right here. And this is going to ask you to choose a template. Now this is going to be very important because when you're looking at choosing a template, you don't necessarily have to worry about what picture is there. But this is going to save you a lot of work if you find the right color scheme, if you find the right layout, and most importantly, if you find the right fonts and things like that. So we're going to go down here. Obviously at the top, you can choose a specific category. So if I'm going to be a photographer, maybe a nature photographer for outdoors, then I could look at photography. That's a really popular one right there. But if you don't see one that matches what you're looking for, you can easily find any of these and they work just fine. So for example, if we go to local business, you'll see that I could easily use this one for photography. And you'll see that even though they have some different things on the top, like our instructions, classes, and location, we can change those pages. And you can really customize any one of these websites to look like anything you want. It's just a matter of saving you work. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to try to find one that's close to what I'm looking for. Let's go with photography. And as I scroll down, you'll see, admittedly, I'm not a big fan of many of these. This one looks all right. And actually, these are looking better down here. Okay, so I think, where did that one go? This one looks the most interesting to me, so we can go and preview that. And once you preview it, you'll see that you can go to View Demo Site, and you'll see this is what that website is actually going to look like. It looks like we cannot scroll up or down from this. It's sort of just a slideshow. Oh no, as you hover, it changes them. Yeah, when you hover, it changes the picture. That's cool. And then we can go to About, we can go to Contact, and we can go to work. So that's pretty much it. This one looks very bare bones, very simple. I'm actually not going to go with this one. And I think this is a great example of when you might want to use a different theme. So I showed you local businesses. I really did like this one right here. So let's go to this one and preview that right now. And you'll say view demo site. Yeah, this one we can scroll down. I think this one looks a lot better for photography. You could talk about maybe what kind of photo shoots you do if you shoot weddings, if you do just magazine work, if people want to contact you down here, a newsletter. This is definitely what I want to use. So let's go and close this tab. And from here, you can actually go and start with this design. Now, something I should have mentioned a second ago was that it is also important to look at how the website appears when you're using mobile or tablet view. We'll do that in a second anyway. Now, we can name our website right here. So the name of it, I'm going to say Santrel Photography. And let's say continue. And the rest of this, I'm just going to click skip. You don't need any of that right now. Now, on the bottom, we have our little assistant. It's going to kind of give you like an outline of some things you might want to consider doing, and it probably will change over time. So I'm just going to close that. That one is not especially important, but essentially what we're looking at here in this layout, we have a couple things. On the left side, we have all of our settings and all of our controls. And then on the right side, we have essentially what our website looks like. It is interactive right here. So it's kind of like a mini browser where you get to experience your website and kind of navigate through it to see how things look. So in our website, you can see that on the top, of course, our logo here is going to link back to our home page. These are all going to, these are our navigation bar, and these will link to other pages. And as we go down, this is all fully customizable. Then on the top, you'll see we can go to edit. If you actually want to edit this, which we will do in a second, it tells you which page you're on, if it's published or not. And of course, over here, you can go to the mobile preview. This is what I was saying a second ago, where you definitely want to make sure you see every single page to better understand how they look on a mobile site, because a lot of people will be visiting your website on a phone, especially if you're like a restaurant or something like that. So let's go up here and click on the phone again to go back to desktop view. And of course, you could also click on the little arrow to open it in full view right here. So this is going to be obviously full screen, seeing what your website is like, something I definitely recommend doing further on in the video. Now, before we go into editing this, I want to go down the left side and talk about some of the main stuff, the big structure of our website. The first thing is actually pages. Now, pages for a photography website, we probably don't really care about classes and location, so we can definitely delete some of these. The first thing to do is actually click on the little gear icon. It'll bring up all of the options right here, and we want to go down to delete page. So let's delete that page. Another thing to consider is just because it has a different name doesn't mean you can't use that page. So if we go and check out the location page, you can look at it and say, you know, maybe I could actually use this for something else. Maybe it's an About Us page or something like that. We already have an About Us page though. So again, I'm going to delete this one. So let's go down and delete this one. Yes, let's delete that. And for classes, maybe we could change classes. Actually, that is an interesting one. Maybe classes, we can change that to rename it and call it something else. So instead of classes, this could be like tutorials. Actually, let's say that instead this is going to be testimonials. And because I'm going to change all these in a second, but just so you guys see, I think something like this would make sense if it was testimonials. So you could see like maybe one photo shoot for somebody's wedding, and you could have like a picture of them and say, you know, a quote that they actually gave you. And I think this would be a good way to lay that out. And then the bottom, like book a photo shoot, for example. So if we are photographers, I think that's something that makes sense for us. We are going to go back to settings, and we actually want to fully customize this entire page. So testimonials is what the page is going to be titled. The navigation title means what is it going to show up on the top. So right there, blog. We want to call this one testimonials. And then testimonials. So the URL slug is going to be what it is on the end of your URL, your domain. So if we are santrelphotography.com, this will be santrelphotography.com/testimonials, and then it'll bring them to this page here. Now we could enable the page, we could disable it. For almost everything in this video, we will have it enabled. You could have it password protected though, if it's something that is going to be maybe not for the general public, maybe it's like a membership type page, whatever your use is for this one, you can make it a password protected page. So we're not going to do that on this one itself. And then we can go and either set it as a home page, duplicate the page, or actually I think we're fine, which is this. So we can go and save that. I will get into SEO and stuff like that later on in the video, but just looking at the general structure here, we now have a testimonial page. Now, we also have an about page. We have a blog. I really don't want a blog, so we can go and get rid of this. But you'll notice that the little icon next to them is actually different because these are different styles of pages. So let's delete this one here. And let's say we want to add one more thing. So besides just about and testimonials, we probably want a portfolio. So if we go and click on the plus icon there, this is what you'll see, that we have lots of different options for how to make the different pages. You can have a blank page, you can have a page from a layout. So if we start with a blank page, you'll see that it actually is just completely blank. If we start from a layout, you'll have some options here with how you want the page to be structured. This is generally easier to start with. So we can easily start with any one of these. Click on that, and then that will be our page right there. I'm going to delete these in a second. We can also go and add a blog, a store. The store is also going to add a couple things in there, including a cart on your website and the checkout page, and pretty much everything you would need to do any kind of online selling. Portfolio is actually what we're looking for right here. You can have events, a folder, a link. The link is actually really cool. So you can actually put a link up in your navigation. So if we want to call this like Santrel Media. So if we just want to call this Santrel Media, we can actually go to this right here, open a new window, yes, and we can say save. And so that way we now have a link in the top. So Santrel Media is actually a link that goes not to just our website. This is useful if you sell maybe like an online course, or if you have an Etsy page or whatever, you can link it on your website right here and it'll link over directly there. Similarly, an Instagram or YouTube channel, you can do that very easily just by linking right here. That's not necessarily the best way to link to socials, but it is useful for a lot of other things. Like I said, an Etsy store would be a great example. So let's go and get rid of those other two pages. This one we don't need. Get rid of that one. I know we're talking a lot about pages here, but this is a very important part that you don't want to overlook. It saves you a lot of time if you set this up correctly in the very beginning, and it makes it so much easier further on down the road to have your website, perform successfully. So let's go and add that portfolio like I talked about. The portfolio, we have a couple layouts here as well. And by a couple, I really do mean like there's really only 2 or 3 layouts. And so for the portfolio I'm interested in, I think this is probably the best layout, what I think would fit best here. And we're just going to call this portfolio, not portfolio 1. And if we call it that, you'll see that we have a couple different projects we can show. I'm going to get into this in a second, but again, let's just set this up and make sure that everything looks right. So the name is all correct. Yes. We don't have password protection. Yes. And close that. And then the only other thing I want to talk about with pages before we start getting in and editing these is actually rearranging the pages. So here you can see it says portfolio, Santrel Media, about, and testimonials. I don't really like the layout of this, so I think testimonials should probably go up here. About should probably go there. And then if we want to have that link, we can do that. So you'll see what I just did is you just click on any one of these and you drag them up and down. So just click and drag, and that will rearrange them from top to bottom, is from left to right here. And it just rearranges the way it shows up on your navigation bar. Now you'll notice that we do have 2 more down here. These are the not linked ones, meaning that it doesn't say home right there, even though that page does exist. So if you wanted book a class to be linked, you can click and drag this up to the linked section, and now it's going to be showing up there. Or you can just bring it down here. And similarly, you can bring this one down here. This one does not make sense that you'd want that page to be working even if it's not in navigation, but regardless, this is how you would set things up. So if this is what we want right here, let's go back to the home page by clicking on our logo, and this will bring us back to what we were interested in the beginning. So from here, let's go back to home on the left side. Going down, we have design. This is going to change your fonts, your colors, your animations. And again, this is something else I like to set up before I go and construct the whole website, because it just makes things easier so you don't have to keep changing colors. You don't have to keep changing fonts, because if you set it as a global thing for your entire website, it's so much easier and faster. So let's go and do that right now. So we'll go to fonts, and we can say close for this. And we have a couple fonts to choose from. So starting with headings, we can go and change the weight of it, the style of it. And again, this is something that I was showing you before. When you're choosing the template that you, in the very beginning, the right template, it's important that you look at the font there. Of course, you can change it as I'm showing you right now if you want the letter spacing to be a little different, but it obviously requires a little bit of work. So for the purposes of this video, I actually am not that interested in changing the font for paragraphs or for headers or whatever. But the one thing that maybe we'd want to do is change the weight of it from 300 maybe to 400 if you want something slightly heavier. So I'm going to say save, and that'll bring us back to where we were right here. And that's pretty much everything in design for fonts. Now, when we get into colors, you'll see that the palette it gave us is really boring, just a bunch of grays. So if you go and edit this one, it gives you a whole bunch of different options here. But if that's not what you're interested in, maybe if you already have a logo, you already have some colors, you can just click on the little down arrow right here, and we can go and do it from an image. We can do it from a color. And so if you choose maybe like this color right here, it'll give you some different suggestions here for complementary colors, analogous colors, or monochrome as well. So it's cool that you can do that. You can easily change it to whatever you want, and you can change right here. You can actually type it in if you really wanted to. So if we wanted this to be like maybe 25%, 25%. It can change things to really whatever you're looking for. So I think that's a really cool tool. It's something you don't see on a lot of other builders out there, the option to give you like a nice layout there. So you could just find the right color for your logo and do that. Similarly, you can also go into custom colors if you want to make it entirely on your own. So if you already have a color palette, create it right here. You can go from image if you already have, again, your logo. You can upload that. It can find the colors in your logo and use that for this one. Or, and like I said in the very beginning, we can just go to designer palettes, and that's what I'm going to do right here. So we're going to go with kind of a darker one right here, the dark blues. I think that would work well with this website. So we're going to just choose that and then say save. So once we save it, it will be applied to the website. You're not going to see a ton of it in the beginning right here. Just like right here, you'll see that that's now blue, and we'll see that throughout the website later on. But for now, that's really what you want to start with. So let's go back to design. And then from here, we can go to animations. Animations, again, is the next thing. When you're changing between different style or different pages, you'll see that different things might happen. So if we just go to like the About Us page, and here you can see that there's really no animations, but we could go to fade or scale, and sometimes that's something that people like to do. So if we go, you'll see they kind of faded in right there. Similar, we can go to scale. So as you go down, everything kind of pops into place. So that's one. There's just different ways. You'll see it up here. Slide up. We have clip as another way to show up. Flex, another way to show up. Some of this does affect load speed a little bit, and you can also change the speed of this happening, so slower or faster. So for this one, I'm really just going to leave it with maybe fade. I think that kind of looks cool-ish, but I'm also tempted just to turn this off entirely. Regardless, let's leave it on, just see how this looks in the end. So let's go back to design, and then we can go down to spacing. Now, spacing is not something I really want to talk about too much. You'll see that we just have some margin on this on the left and right, the page width and stuff like that. For most situations, I wouldn't recommend changing this. The default is usually pretty good. Squarespace definitely does a great job with how their website looks. But if you want it to be really narrow, you could adjust that and change that over there. If we go down to buttons, this is something I'm a big button user. Whenever I'm making websites, I love putting buttons all over. I think that's really what this template is missing, is more buttons. So, I mean, for example, like there's really no call to action. I would make this a button right here. And so we can do some things with that. So the shape of our buttons, we want them to be rounded buttons, and we can make them either solid or outlines, and you can change all of this later, but this is really just going to be helping you for like the top right there, that button. And of course, other places on your website, if you change this, it's going to be by default, it's going to look a little bit better. So for this, an outline button that is rounded looks fine, that looks good enough, so I'm just going to leave it as that. Now we can say save, it'll bring us, we'll go back to design. And the other things we want to talk about are image blocks. Image blocks, you can go down here and change just some basic stuff about that. I'm not going to get into that right now. I really don't think that's that important to do in the design aspect of this. We can change that actually individually when we're looking at each image on a specific page. Then going down, we have the browser icon. This is something very important. So you'll see on the top right here, we have a little cube. Similarly, Canva has their logo right there. This is really going to this looks very unprofessional if you just have a cube right there. That's what's going to be there by default. So you want to make sure that you're adding an image. I added one like a second ago and I cut because I wanted to show you guys a little bit more than just adding an image. So if we want to add an icon, you click on that. You can upload pretty much anything you want. And Squarespace does a great job of resizing it. So if I wanted to use like this cheesesteak right here, it does say it's too large, but if you find something that's a little bit smaller and it's the right aspect ratio, even though this is not 32 by 32 pixels, it's still a small enough image that it will resize it for this purpose here. But what I would really recommend doing, obviously we're not selling cheesesteaks. This is an example from a previous video. So what I would recommend doing is going to canva.com. It's completely free to use. You can upgrade if you want to, but if you just go to santrelmedia.com/Canva, it'll bring you over to Canva, create an account, and it's a great way to, or at least I use it a lot, and you can use it throughout your entire website to make really anything you want. So if we want to go and create a logo, which is kind of what we're doing right now, we can go to that right there. And from your logo, you can see that there's tons and tons of different options for templates. A lot of them are free. There are some paid ones, of course, but you can easily go into any one of them, customize them, and use them over here on your website. So I'm going to just quickly do that right now. If we want to go down and say, this is, what did I call it? Santrel photography. We can go here and let's go with something like this one here. I like this one. So we can go and change the font on this one. We can say Santrel photography, and we don't need that down there, and we can change the size of anything. So let's make this all bigger, make it actually fit the entire thing, so it's more of a proper logo, I guess. There we go. So this is by no means a great logo. I wouldn't recommend doing one this quickly. It's generally pretty small, and I don't really like the colors of it or anything. But regardless, we're going to stick with this one for now, just so you guys get a general idea of how we'd be doing things. But Canva, like I said, great tool, lots of options, lots of tools in there as well. And I actually have a full tutorial if you guys really want to get into using Canva. It's pretty self-explanatory. Everything on the left is going to be elements you want to add, and the top is going to be how you want to customize those elements. So for example, if I click on this here, we can actually change like transparency of it. You can copy the style of it. We can group things together, ungroup things, and just delete things in general, or you can actually change the color of it. So like I said, the top is how you change things, and the left side is actually the things you can add onto your page here. So if we go to like photos, you can go and add like a picture of these cacti in the middle. Doesn't look good, so I'm just going to click delete. And when you're done, you can just download any of these as a PNG, or really any way you want. So like a JPEG works just fine. I'm going to download that. Now, once it's downloaded, yes, we do want downloads from Canva. That works just fine. There it is. It opens up right here. So I'm going to go back to Safari, and let's go back to our website. So now we can upload that new little icon we made. It probably is in downloads. And it'll upload that. And that is now going to be our browser icon that shows up on the top instead of that little cube. So when you say save, and then when we actually go visit our website, you'll see that up on the top. So we can now close Canva. Again, it's a great tool. You don't have to use it. If you already have a logo, just upload that here. Let's go back from design, and we have a couple other things down here. Now, the lock screen is not really that important right now. The checkout page, we're not selling anything yet, so that's not important. But of course, you can go in and edit that. There's not a whole lot you can do with these pages. It's not quite as customizable as the rest of your website, but you can change the color and change the general style like that. So other than that, the 404 page is something, this is if somebody types in the wrong link, or if you accidentally share the wrong link, you can go to the 404 error page. It'll show up something like this, or you can actually just redirect them to a different page. So you can go and bring them to the about page, you can bring them to a blog page, or really any page you want. I'm going to bring them to the about page. So anytime that they type in the wrong thing, you can just direct them over here. And this is especially useful that you can actually change it, because you could actually make your own 404 error page. So let's actually do that right now. I know this is getting a little bit lengthy, but I'm trying to make a full tutorial for you guys to see everything you possibly would want to know when you're making a Squarespace website. So something I highly recommend is going over here, creating a new not linked page. It's going to be a blank page, and this is going to be called the error page. And we will come back and edit this later. It's not going to be an empty page. We're going to add something really nice there. We're going to say like, sorry, you must have found the wrong link or whatever, and then add a good little redirect there. So a lot of times, a lot of people could be sharing incorrect links or going to incorrect links, and that's a lot of dead-end traffic that if they just go to a page that is the default error page, then they're just going to leave your website. But if they go to a custom error page, as we're making right here, it's a great way to put buttons there and redirect them to where they want to go on your website. And I think it's a great way to recapture a lot of otherwise lost traffic. So when you go back to home, that's actually a really big thing that a lot of people, like I said, a lot of people don't talk about that. They definitely should. So if we go to 404 error page, let's go and direct that to our new error page. We're going to save that. We'll edit that later on in the video and make that look really nice. Down here, access denied screen, social sharing, custom CSS. This is something that you don't really need to care about right now. Social sharing is something that if you want to have a logo for when shared on Facebook or something like that, there we go. So we'll just use this logo for social sharing, and then we are going to say save as soon as that loads. There we go. And so that's pretty much it for design. Now going back from design, we have a couple other things. I'm not going to get into commerce right now because we're not selling in this video, but you obviously can sell on Squarespace. It's a very powerful tool. I would generally use BigCommerce for a lot of other sales, or Shopify, or WooCommerce for that matter if you're making a bigger store. But if you're just making like a quick little sell a couple merchandise type things, Squarespace is a great way to do that because you can make your website look really nice. So if you're a YouTuber, or if you're just an Instagram person, you're trying to set up a blog and you want to maybe sell a couple items, you can easily do that here. And I actually have separate videos on how to do that. That's not really the purpose of this video, so I'm not going to dive into that too much. Going down to marketing, we're going to get into actually the rest of these later on in the video. I think what I want to do right now, before we get into analytics and profiles and settings, is actually start editing the pages now. So if we go to the home page by clicking on our logo, we can then click on the edit button. It's been staring at us the whole time. it's finally time to go and edit our website. It'll bring us into a full screen mode, and this editor looks a little bit different than you might be used to. If you've ever seen websites been made with Weebly or Wix or whatever, this one is actually a lot more curated. I like Squarespace because it's easier for people to use and it's more robust. It's harder to break your website. It's harder to make it look bad. And what I mean by that is a lot of times people customize their websites when they're using other ones, and then when you go into a mobile view, it just doesn't look right. But Squarespace makes it almost impossible to make a bad website. So if you put whatever you want on the desktop site and then you go into a mobile view, almost every single time it'll look really, really good. So let's go back to desktop view. And from here, you'll see that we kind of have these blue blocks. We have a site header that we can edit as it recommends right there. And as we go down, you have a blue outline around each of these sections. So we're going to call it sections and a little plus between them for when you actually want to add a new section. So we're not going to add a new section yet. So as you go down, you'll see that we have a blue section here. We've got this little image section, and any section we don't like, we can go and click on the trash can. If we really like it and want another one of it, and we want to change maybe what it says on the other one, you can duplicate that. And then the arrows are going to allow us to move it up and down. So right here, if we go and duplicate this one, you'll see it shows up right there. We could go and delete it like I mentioned. We can go and say yes, remove that. And of course, we can customize anything about any one of these as we go through and edit them. So let's just say for the first one right here, we really want a different image. So what I'm going to do is actually click on the pencil icon right here. So editing the section allows us to change not only the height of it, so we can make this shorter if we don't want it to stretch out so far. I kind of like how large it was, so medium looks fine to me. We can align the content. So right now it's aligned to the bottom of that, so we have a nice space on the top. But you could make it in the middle, or you can make it on the top if you're trying to move like this right here is where that's going to be. So based on the image, you really want to kind of figure out where it should go. And of course, we can make it centered, right aligned, or left aligned. The text is all left aligned. So if we made it center aligned, we would want to edit this text, which we'll do in a second, and make that center aligned as well. If we go to background, this is where we can change the image that it currently has. So let's replace this image with another one. So let's see which image looks best. I think I would probably want to use something. I think this one might look good. Let's just see what this looks like. If we upload this image, we can go and let's see what it looks like. Okay, I think that looks really cool. Hopefully we're able to actually edit the text so it looks a little better. We can edit this image as well if we really want to change like how that looks. If we want full bleed, that's going to go up into the top right there, or we can have inset. If you don't want the header to have this as the background, full bleed I think looks fine. I think it looks really good on our header there. And we can have the opacity as well. We can make it a little darker or a lot lighter. Having some level right there gives you a nice separation for the text. And we can add some image effects as well if you wanted to. So film grain, if you really care about that, it moves around. I think that looks kind of weird, but I've seen people do that before, and it's okay. It works sometimes. We can have retracted lines or refracted lines, tilt. Now we can also move around this dot right here if we want to move the picture up a little bit. So let's keep moving it up to right around there. So something like that would actually do a great job of making your text a little bit more readable, so it's not on the white snow right there. But if that's not good enough, actually one thing, we don't want to have any image effect. I'm decided I don't want any image effect. Leave it off. It looks fine. And the text looks pretty good here on the ice, but maybe we want to make it pop a little bit more. So if we go over to colors, you can choose between a couple different kind of accents. It changes the way the text shows up on the back. So we can go to like dark right here, or maybe a white one. You'll see how the background is a little bit lighter now. So again, this kind of pops out, but you're gonna have to go through these and figure out based on whichever image you're using, what actually looks the best. So really dark blue, I think this looks pretty cool, but between blue and black, I'm not sure which one would look better. Dark bold or accent dark. I'm going to go with accent dark. I think that looks pretty cool. And I like having the text in the middle right here, but I do want to change the way that text looks. So that's really everything we want to do with the background of this first section right here. So you can just click off wherever you want. And what we want to do is hover over this. You see there's a little blue box that shows up around this. And in here, we have a couple different text sections right here. So we have a header on the top. Then we have probably like a paragraph right here. Maybe it's H4 is what that is. And then sort of a button on the bottom or call to action. So what we want to do right here is let's go to this and make this centered instead. So you click on centering that. And instead, I want to call it something different. Let's say Santrel Photography. And so for that, we can, sure, that's going to be H1. So for that, of course, it's going to be heading 1, H1, but we also want to make sure that's a little bolder, and you can also change some basic stuff about that. If you want to add it as like a quote, if you want to add numbers, bullets, whatever, you can change all of that. So I think that looks really good as it is right now. And then below, this needs to be centered as well. So here we could just say, a team of professional photographers. And then down here, we could say, instead of this right here is going to be a link. So we want to actually, let's just get rid of this entirely. So we're going to remove that and let's go and say delete. And you'll see that we have these little gray icons right here popping up, these little gray bubbles. So let's go down here, add it to the bottom. We are going to add a spacer. And there we go. Now it actually added on the bottom. And the spacer, you can actually, when you hover over the dot, you can click on the gray spot and drag that down. Now, if you drag it too far, obviously you're going to get back to the blue text up there. So let's go to maybe like right around there, I think looks pretty good, where it's still appealing, still very readable. But you know what, honestly, let's make it a little smaller and add something slightly above that. I want to add a button up here. So what we want to do is go back again, click on the gray bubble, and you'll see all these different options that I mentioned before. We have spacer, we have a line, button is what we're actually interested in right now, but I'll go through a lot of the other ones later on because some of these are really cool. As you go down, you can have some more complicated ones like a list or a card, which is going to add like image and text all in one. Saves you a lot of work, a lot of time, and is definitely one of the most used things I have experienced when building websites. So let's go back to button, click on button. It's going to add a button right here, and we can change the size of the button. Let's make it slightly smaller. Actually, no, let's make it medium. That's fine. It's just a little bit weird how large the buffer is on the outside, so we can customize that one. But let's just say view gallery. And we want this to go to, you can add a URL if you want, or if you click on settings, we can actually just link to one of the pages on our site. So web address, yeah, that's cool, but it's easier if you just go to a page internally. So let's find the pages we have. I think there was one that was called portfolio. There we go. So that'll link to the portfolio either in a new window or maybe not a new window if you don't want that. So let's turn a new window on. Sometimes that's a cool thing to have it open again. We can have phone, email, file if you want those. That's not really what I'm looking for right here. But if it's a call to action for like a restaurant, you want to call the book, you can easily do that right there. Now the button doesn't have a whole lot of settings right here, unfortunately. We're just going to say apply for that. But if you click on the pencil, that'll just bring you back to where we were. And so the button, if you really want to customize that, we will have to go back to the beginning, not the beginning of this video, but like what I showed you earlier on, back out of here. We can change how that's actually going to look. And so considering the background we have right here, like yes, that does look cool like that, but I kind of think it would look better if it was filled in white. So let's save this and let's go back to those settings there. So if we go to design, we go down to buttons, or where was that? Buttons right there. And we can change the way this button looks. So we can change, I know I said outline looked good before, but I think maybe a solid one would look better. And we want a rounded one, and we want a little bit less padding on there to make it slightly slimmer. Something like, we can actually change it right here. So let's make that, actually 0.7 looks pretty good. So let's go and save this, save it, and that's what our buttons are going to look like. Now, if we go back to design, and we can actually go up to edit right here and get back to where we were editing this. Now you see that right here, the photo is a little bit finicky. If you change the aspect ratio of this screen, that could be a risk. So we want to go down to the spacer, and we want to make sure the spacer is maybe just a little bit smaller, maybe something just like that. And we can also, of course, view this in a mobile mode. So if you go up to the top right and you click on the mobile preview, you'll see what it looks like in a mobile view. And again, it looks all right. This is definitely a lot harder to see here. So we will want to come back and edit this later on. But let's continue down with the rest of the page here. So as we go down, you'll see the upcoming classes section. And this one is actually really cool. So they'll have something like an image with text in the middle of it here. And so we can easily make these if we want our own, or you can just customize the one that they already have. So in order to do that, just click on the little pencil icon, and let's go and add a new image. So we're going to change the image right here. So by clicking delete, upload an image, and the image we want is maybe going to be another source of photography. Maybe this one right here looks pretty good. Let's choose this one and upload this one. And of course we can have like some text on there, like I said, but let's wait for this to upload in just a second. So let's say, well, let's move this over here so we can see it. Yeah, honestly, that looks pretty good. You can change where this actually is, though, if it zooms around a little bit. I'm going to leave it in the middle right there. And we can add a file name, not important for this one. As far as the design goes, this is where the text is going to show up. So if you want the text on the right side of it, if you want it in line, like right below it, Poster is what they're doing right here, where you have it. So it's actually poster is what we're doing here. I'm not sure why that just showed up really weird all of a sudden. So if we click this and drag this back up to the right size, there we go, right there. A poster is what they're doing right here. So the text is in the middle. Now we can go to animations. Again, if you want some kind of animations with this, you can do that. It automatically has the slide up one. I'm just going to say site default so we don't have anything weird showing up. But regardless, let's just hit apply right now and start editing that. And again, I'm not sure why that really wants to go down there. Let's go and click and drag this up to the normal aspect ratio. And now let's just say we do like mountain photography. Actually, I'm not sure why that. I don't want the text to change. It was heading 3, so let's just keep it as heading 3. And we're going to say mountain photography. So sometimes we take photos in the mountains for magazines. So we're going to say mountain magazine. And then right here we can say check out our portfolio of beautiful and of course we can also do a lot of stuff like this. We can add some links if we want. So we can make this entire thing a link. So if we go to link it, all of that text, actually I think I went a little quick right there. If we just highlight everything we have, all this text, click on the link right there, little chain, then we can go to the settings. And this we can link again to a page. Let's link this one to portfolio as well. Assuming you had like a couple different portfolios, you'd want to link that like that. And so let's see, did we actually do that? So let's go back to settings. We'll go to page. I think I forgot to click save. And so for page, we want to go to portfolio, say save it. And there we go. So it should be ready to go. Say apply. And now the whole thing is underlined. It's a little bit odd, but in this situation, I don't think it looks especially bad. It just means when somebody clicks on that, they will be redirected. So I think that's a cool way to do things. If we just go and click on it now, it's not going to redirect us because we're in editing mode. But in the actual live site, which I'll show you in a second, it should redirect. Now over here, we want to maybe change this one to be, instead of mountain photography, maybe we do some kind of other stuff. So let's go and delete this image here. We'll go up and upload an image. I think you guys are getting the idea of how we're doing this. Let's say this one's going to be more of, I don't know, any other type of photography. This could be like food photography maybe. I have some food pictures right here. Yeah, let's go with this one right here. So let's go and say choose, upload that one. And again, as far as design goes, we are using what this one's called, I believe the poster layout is what we're using. Poster, yes. And so we can go over and start editing that. So we can say restaurant. Again, it keeps changing that. It wants us to use the font here. So there we go. And so we can link this again. So we'll highlight that. Actually, let's first say apply. Highlight this text here for the restaurant portfolio. Maybe we take photos for stuff like that too. And we can go to the link. We can go and link that to, maybe this time we want to link that to something else. Maybe you want to link it to an email. And so you can have an email that would be like mike@santrelmedia.com. And you can add a subject and a body or whatever you want. So when people do this, it'll automatically pre-fill that. I'm just going to leave all of that right here. Maybe the subject is restaurant. Sure. And we'll say save. And that way, when somebody clicks on that, it'll send you an email. We'll say apply. And that's also a link here, just acting a little bit differently. So we can add any kind of subtitle we want right here. So we can do that. Now, as far as this goes, we can also, like I showed you over here, we can resize these if you want. And now you'll notice that these two images look slightly different. This one's a lot more kind of washed out than this one. So this one's a lot sharper. Side by side, they don't look the best. So really the option that we would want to, the alternative here is to click on like this image here, go to edit, and you can actually go into the image editor with any one of these. And it's really easy to just change like the brightness of it. Maybe the contrast could be a little higher on this one, and that would make them look more similar. Similarly, maybe the shadows could be a little bit darker. Just give you more of a true black in there. And let's say save this and see if that looks a little bit better on the side. So It's working on that right now. I'm going to say apply, and that'll show up in just a second. Yeah, I think that looks a lot better than it was. It was a little bit more washed out before, and maybe this one you would adjust this to make it look more washed out so they match better. But regardless, that's kind of how you'd edit those things. Then up here we have our title, so we can go and change this one to learn more. And similarly, if you want to edit any one of these or add things or delete them, so like right here, I really don't think this fits in very well. We can click delete. Let's remove that block. Similarly, we can get rid of this block. Yes. And then we have a spacer down on the bottom. The spacer, I think, looks fine to balance that, but let's just make that spacer slightly larger right there. So there we go. So we have our second segment right here. And then down here, we have a third segment. This one, I think, or the section rather, sorry. We have a third section right here. This one, I think, looks really weird. So I really don't like what is in here. Let's kind of build this one from scratch. So let's remove that block. Let's remove this. Yes, and that's going to stretch to full length. Let's remove that one as well. And then here we go. So we just have a blank, just a spacer there, really. And if we get rid of that, it's actually going to be absolutely nothing here. Just some text is what the default is. So you can't actually get rid of the text. It's always going to be there. So what we want to do is add something below that. Now, it doesn't matter. Maybe this section we want to add. Let's check out the other things that we have. Now, I showed you guys we can have things like a carousel here. That would look a little similar to what's above. We can add a calendar. We can have like all these different little integrations here. You can actually have code if you have your own integration you want to put in. Just a ton of different options for how to actually set up this block. But as we go down, maybe we want to have some social things right here. Maybe we want to add some social blocks. So maybe like Instagram's a good idea. So it'll ask us to connect our Instagram. And right here we have 10 items. That's a lot. Maybe I just want to show like, I think 6 items would be fine. So there we go. If we put 6 items in here, and we can go and actually choose our account, and this will set it up so that our Instagram is showing up right here, which is really cool if you want to do this. Although I think this section would probably look a little bit better further on down here. Okay, so it's getting mad that I didn't connect an account. Let's get rid of that text. Yes, get rid of the text. There we go. So there's our Instagram, a lot of items, but once you sign in, you can actually customize that. I'm not going to do that right now, but we want to move this block down. So if we look at this, I really don't like how the Instagram's right in the middle. Honestly, this blue block doesn't really fit in general. So we just click on the down icon here. It'll bring it down right above the footer. And so then we can go to, there's our newsletter. Now let's add another section between these. I didn't really talk about adding new sections. So let's go and click on the plus. And we have a couple options. Like I said before, similar to pages, you have a lot of options with how you want this to look. So you can have something like this, where it just is like a photo and an image, or a photo and some text with a button. I think that is pretty simple, pretty cool. I really like using that. But of course, you can also have a gallery in there. You can have images. You can have quotes. Quotes, kind of a cool thing to do. You can maybe have in this section like meet our team would be a good one. So if we want to go down and find something that would be better for that, let's check out these down here. So we have gallery. Let's see if gallery makes sense. No. Quote, text. So let's actually add this one as a blank section. I'll show you guys how to build this one from scratch. So right here, we have a blank section, and I want to add this as like a meet our team. So for the text in the middle, I'm just going to say meet our team. There we go. And we want to make this not paragraph 2, but heading 2. So it's a second large thing. So like obviously that's the main heading. And then this is like a secondary heading here just for this section. So below that, I want to make sure that is left aligned. Yes. And for this section, I really want this to be aligned up at the top. So what we can do here is we can go to edit the section, and make sure the content is aligned to the top. I think that looks a lot better, and we can add a lot of stuff below that, kind of similar in layout to what we have right here. Now the contrast from gray to white works, but we can also change the background to make it whatever we want. For now, I'm just going to leave it as white until we lay this out, and then we can choose a good background from there. So right below that, I want to add our team. So let's go down and see what we have for that. We could add like some different little cards. I think that would work well. Similarly, we could go down and see if there's anything a little bit better for like testimonial styles, kind of what I'm looking for. But I'm not really seeing anything that works better than just a basic card. So let's go and add a card here. So that card should be showing up right below. It looks like for some reason it didn't. Let's go back and add a card. There we go. And so this card is very, very large, but let's add another one to the right. So let's say apply for this one. We're going to add another card. It's going to show up below it at first, but if we click this and drag it, so let's say apply. Now let's click and drag this up to the left. You'll see that it should show up side by side. So now we have 2 of them side by side. And this one, I really want this to be above everything. So this should be above everything right there. And now we have 2 side by side. I want to add a couple more though, maybe 3 I think would be a good number. So for this, we want to go and actually add 1 more. And so we'll add it right below this one. So add another card. That way it's already the right size. And then for this one, again, apply, move up, and we'll click and drag this one right between these 2. So now we have 3 in this layout. These, I mean, obviously looking like a card where it's text on the right side is not exactly what I was looking for. I want the text to be below that. So let's start off with an image. Let's go with an image of maybe this guy's on our team. He's like some chef photographer. And we can go to design then, and this is where we can actually change the layout to what we're looking for. So design, I want this to be inline right here, so the text is below there. And we can also change the way that looks. So we can change like caption below. Yes, that looks good. We can have it either stretch or enable lightbox if you want. I'm not going to do that. Lightbox is like when you hover, it'll enlarge and do something like that. But for this, I'm just going to say animations, site default. That's good. Now, if we want to edit this, we can actually add the text underneath there however we want. And of course, the aspect ratio of this image is going to really control how big it is and what's happening. Now, if you really want this to be even smaller, the other thing you can also do is add some spacers on the left and right side of these. So I'm going to add a spacer right now before I fill everything else out because I really do want this to be slightly smaller. So let's add a spacer on the left side here, and this spacer is going to be slightly smaller, and we can also adjust the width of that right here. So let's go and add the width to right about there, and the width of this one to right about there. Change this width as well. And of course, we can add another spacer on the right side then. So let's just make that a little bit wider, something like that. There we go. So let's add another spacer below that. We'll drag this guy over to the right side. Drag him over here. So it's kind of like 5 columns. That makes these a nice, compact size there. It makes a lot more sense. You can add spacers in between if you want them to be narrower as well. But I think this kind of gives me exactly what I'm looking for right now. So let's go and edit this image. This one can maybe be like a photo of, I think there was one of me. There we go. Let's choose this one. It looks like that one's too large, but you get the idea. Let's just go and add the same guy in all 3 of these, unless I have another person. Maybe this guy. There we go. Just a sample photo, just so you guys know what I'm talking about right here. We are going to say apply and add one again right here. So we'll go and click on image, upload an image, and this one again we can go back to using this guy, or maybe this guy jumping. He's on our team as well. Now, you'll notice that the reason this is a slightly different aspect ratio is because it's actually not inline yet. As soon as you click inline, they'll all be a full image just like that. So we're going to say apply. And now below this, we have the little room for some text right here. So we can say meet Marty. And we can say like below that, Marty is our master chef photographer. So we can just add like a quick little bio on the bottom. I would recommend it to be probably a little bit longer than that. But then below there, if we want to add like a button, we can go and click on the little bubble. Let's add a button for each of these. And this button could be, learn more. And it can just link right on over to maybe the About Us page. So we can go to About Us. There we go. Let's save that. And I think you guys are really getting the idea of how we're building this. So we can go and make a copy of this one. So let's just go. And then we can just go and add another button here. And again, link it over to the right place, add another button here. I think you guys are really getting the idea here. So I'm not going to really edit any more of this. You have the idea of how we can change the background, how we can change everything on this page, and how we can add different elements. So down here, a more complicated element like this one, pretty much any element you add, as soon as you click on the pencil icon, it'll just give you kind of a step-by-step process on the right side of how to actually edit that and get exactly what you're looking for. So here we can change the title. We can change essentially what the form name is. This is going to be more of an internal thing for you. And then down here, we can have like a disclaimer if you want to add that. So this will spam your inbox. That's basically what they should say on every newsletter subscription. But regardless, stuff like that over there, we can say apply. Actually, verification's cool. So you can have some kind of a reCAPTCHA key if you want. So that's great. So you don't have robots emailing you, which definitely is more of a problem than you might realize. So eventually you might want to come in and set this up. So we're going to say apply. We're going to say okay. Let's say cancel actually. And so this is really going to be how you're setting up the pages. Now we're going to say done. We're going to save this, and it'll go back to where we were before. Now we can navigate around from this element right here. So if you click on this, it is going to navigate to where we want it. Definitely check all of the links you made. And then from here, you'll see that everywhere on here so far looks pretty good. If we click on This button right here, it'll direct you over to send an email. I don't want to send an email right now, so let's just go back to where we were, and you'll see that everything is looking pretty good now. All right, so what I want to do right now is actually go and upgrade our website. There are a couple different plans, so I want to talk about the differences between them. But when you have a Squarespace website, you get like a 15-day free trial, but then you will actually have to go and upgrade that. And different plans come with different things. So the cheapest one right here, $12 per month. It is cheaper if you pay annually. The first thing to note is that if you select monthly, then, I mean, obviously the prices are roughly 30% more expensive, but that's essentially just going to be if you're trying to make a website for just a month or two, then you'll probably want to go with these. But for most other situations, if you're in it for the long haul, I recommend just paying annually, saving the money, and it definitely is worth it from what I've seen. On top of that, it's also just less stuff you have to remember to do. It automatically renews, and you're ready to go like this. Now, going down, you can see that we have some differences between these. They all start off with the same basic stuff. So anything the personal plan has, the other ones have as well. And they also have stuff on top of that. So basically it's tiered. Starting off with personal, you're going to get a free custom domain, but notice a little asterisk right there. It actually is only for the first year. So you can have a domain on here obviously forever, but after the first year, you will have to pay for the domain. Or you could also just get a domain from somewhere else, like Namecheap or whatever, pay a couple dollars a year. And, the benefit is that it's easy to set up if you do directly through Squarespace. And that's why, I used to recommend going elsewhere for it. It could help load speeds and stuff, but it's generally easier if you just do it directly through Squarespace. So I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. But we also have SSL security, which means that on the top, you see that little lock icon right there. You definitely need to have that if you're doing any kind of e-commerce. But on top of that, you really can't have a website without that anymore because everybody's looking for that. It's just a best practice that you really need to have. So the good thing is Squarespace has that for all of their plans. On top of that, unlimited storage, which is fantastic. So many other competitors out there limit to you like 5, 10 gigabytes, whatever. Unlimited storage means you can put as much content on here as you'd like. If you're making a large blog or adding photos, videos, whatever you're doing, it's great to have that storage. As we go down, you'll see that we have all the templates, the SEO, everything is really going to be there for the personal one, which is why for most people, personal is probably fine, but you'll see where the other three start to come in. So as we go down, you'll see that integrated e-commerce, that's the first one that business is really worthwhile. And then if you're selling a lot of stuff, you don't want to pay that 3% transaction fee to save like, what is that, $7, $8 a month. So it would become worth it to go with no transaction fees and upgrade to basic. That's why a lot of people would go to that one specifically for transaction fees. But also you have some other cool things down here like the point of sale if you're trying to sell, and point of sale is just kind of a really cool thing to have. You can also have checkout on your domain, as you see right here. And then once you get over to the advanced ones, there's some cool things like abandoned cart recovery. Where is that one? Abandoned cart recovery. There it is. So that's one that essentially if somebody goes to your cart and they're about to check out, but then somebody rings the doorbell and it's like the Girl Scouts that go buy some cookies, they come back and they forgot what they were doing on their computer. So they're just off browsing on YouTube or whatever. Now, they might have been ready to buy something from your website. So with abandoned cart recovery, you can send them an email or somehow contact them and let them know like, hey, you were going to buy this or you still want to buy that. It looks like you maybe forgot to check out. And so that's a great way to recover a lot of customers. Again, one of the reasons you might want to upgrade to advanced. But for the purposes of this video, this is not a real website for me, but I am going to upgrade to just the personal plan to show you guys how we would go about doing that. So I'm just going to select pay monthly because like I said, I really don't plan on getting this for the whole year. I'm going to select, and now I'm just going to put in my information. Now, something else to note is that when you are doing this, you can type in Santrel 10, and apply that, and it will save you 10%. Just another reason that you might want to get the full year subscription because it saves you 10% the first time. So off of 1 month, you're saving $1.60. Off of a whole year, that could be a significant amount of money. So I would definitely recommend at least using it. It's a free code, doesn't really, obviously no harm, but Santrel 10 is one that you can use. So we'll confirm and purchase, and then we'll be ready to go with this upgraded website. So now that we have this, you can either go to your website, but I encourage you before you click on that button, we actually want to go and get a domain, and you can do this for free for the first year as I showed you. So we're going to click on get domain. You could also do this in your other settings just to get to this page here. But right now the built-in domain it gives you is just some random assortment of characters .squarespace.com. So we are going to say get a domain. You could use one that you already own if you own one from, like I said, if you get it on Namecheap, if you get it on Google Domains, wherever you're going. So let's actually open a new tab. Something I recommend doing is going to domains.google.com. And this is a great way to at least see what the other prices are and what domains are available. So if we want Santrel, santrelphotography.com, we can type that in, say get it, and it'll do a search and tell you if it's available, how much it's going to cost, and you can buy it from Google Domains here. So you'll see right here, it looks like it is available. They also have .net, .org. These are all probably going to be a little bit cheaper. It looks like, oh no, this is also $12 a year. So it's going to be a cheap one because it's not really something that they think would be in high demand anytime soon. But regardless, I'm going to get it through Squarespace. Like I said, it is easier to do. Could be cheaper to go elsewhere, but we're going to get a domain through Squarespace. Again, free the entire first year, but then you are going to have to pay, as you see right here, something around $30 per year. So this one's $20 per year, santrelphotography.com. I'm going to claim this one, so we are going to go and check out. And it looks like from here, it looks like we are actually going to have to pay right now because I did not get the full year subscription. So if you're paying monthly, then you don't get the full year for free, obviously. But it'll tell you that you can have the extra privacy if you want. So it looks like it does include the who is privacy. Otherwise, anybody could look up your domain and find out like exactly where you live and stuff like that. But you are going to have to type in your information here. So I'm going to do that right now. We're just going to say our address. And then once you're purchased, you will have your domain all ready to go. You're going to have it set up with, and then once you purchase that, it's going to be all ready to go, all set up. And then the next thing is actually if you want to set up an email from Google, we're going to do that in a second. But I'm first just going to say done here because not everybody is going to want to do that. Let's skip this, none of that stuff. And right here it just says email verification is required. So I'm going to go head over to my email right now and actually verify that you should have in your inbox something from Squarespace. So let's see if I have that email. So you see right here the email I got from Squarespace. It says that to verify it, you just have to click on this. It'll open a new tab, and then we'll be all ready to go verifying our domain. But we are going to actually have to sign in. So right down here, verify the information. Yep, information looks correct. So it looks like we are pretty much ready to go. We have our domain. There we go. It's all green, all set up. So now we are going to be available at santrelphotography.com. And so now that we have that, the other things I want to talk about, let's head back to settings and we'll head back to home. Actually, no, settings is where we want to be. So I said that the G Suite was a good idea for a lot of businesses. So if you have, say, a lawn care business and you are Mike5769@gmail.com, it's just a lot less professional for clients to be emailing you and dealing with that email. Now, it's going to look a lot better if you are Mike@santrellawncare.com. It just sounds better. It makes your business seem much more professional, and it also helps you to organize and separate your personal life from your business life. So that's definitely something I highly recommend. So if we go right here from settings, you go down to email and G Suite. It's really easy to set up with G Suite. It's going to be essentially a Gmail. You're going to pay annually, or you can pay monthly if you want. And it allows you to have your own domain. It's through Gmail, so it's easy to access. You can put it on any phone you want, any laptop device, whatever you're using. Anywhere Gmail is accessible, you can also get onto your own email through Gmail, and it's going to have that domain. So it'll be like Mike@santrelphotography.com. So I would recommend, again, paying annually, just as easier. And you'll just type in all this information here. We'll say save and continue, and then it'll walk you through a couple extra steps. I'm not going to do that right now just because I don't need to for this video, but I will say that it is very easy to do. They'll have you set up a couple things, and you'll have your email ready to go that you can then just take the username and password you create in here and just go straight to gmail.com and sign in with that username and password, and you'll just be ready to go. It's very easy to do, so I'm not going to waste $72 on that right now because I think you guys can pretty much do that on your own. Now, continuing on, the other things we have right here in settings, while we're here, I might as well just cover the other things. Billing and account is going to be where you're looking for billing and invoices, so you can see that your credit card is right there. Any subscriptions you have for your domain or your website, if you decide at any point you want to cancel those, you can go in and head over to here and check that out. Similarly, if you need to change your payment method, very easy to do right there. That's something that a lot of website builders kind of hide from you because they don't want you to cancel your account, but it is good. All you have to do is go to billing and account. You can cancel them pretty easily within Squarespace. Now going down, we have cookies and visitor data. It's something that if you want like a cookie banner, that could be something that you'll turn on. So it'll say like, hey, do you agree to your cookies, whatever, and that'll be on the bottom. It's something that you could have a pop-up instead if you wanted that, or you could actually just have that off if you want to disable the cookies. It's something that I don't really There we go. It's something that I don't really think, I'm not going to use any cookies on this website. A lot of basic ones like this you wouldn't need, but if you want tracking cookies, if you're doing some more advanced stuff, if you're running ads or whatever you're doing, you could choose if you want to have cookies either as a pop-up or as a banner on the bottom. So we're going to say cancel on this one, head right back to where we were. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is mobile information bar. If you have the business or advanced plan, you can get this, and this is really nice to have. So I don't have the business or advanced plan right here, but essentially what you could do is in a mobile view, you could go and turn on the mobile info bar and have it, let's say, dark or light or whatever you want, and you could show like email or whatever you want. Right now, it's not even letting me do that, so we can just go and click on Learn More, and I'll show you guys what this looks like. Let's see, where is it? Learn More here. And it'll show you kind of just a sample of what that would actually look like. It can be really useful. You can add like your email or something like that on the bottom. So you see right here, email, call, map, hours. It just makes it a nice call to action when somebody's on. It feels more like an app is really what it does. So when somebody's on their phone and they're visiting your website, I would highly recommend this if you're a restaurant or somebody that would be booking while they're on the go. If they're walking around a city and right on the bottom, you just have like email, call, like book it, whatever you're trying to do. It's really, really convenient. And I think it could help your conversions pretty substantially if you're interested in doing that. But like I said, that's something that you will need either the business or commerce plan for. So this bottom standard plan that I have right now, it doesn't come with that. Now, if we go down to advanced, there's a couple things that you probably won't need to use unless you're ever dealing with a developer. A web developer might be interested in your API keys or code injection if you're doing any of that. Similarly, SSL is what I said, the little lock on the top. If you ever see that the lock is not there, come on over to this section and click on that. It should say active. You definitely want your SSL to be active. If for some reason you selected something else by accident, this is where you would access that to re-enable your SSL. Now, heading back, that's pretty much everything I want to show you in settings right here. The other thing, actually, I'll touch on this very briefly. Member areas is something that it's a feature that you could have if you wanted to have a specific page on your website that would be a membership page. So if you're trying to run some kind of online course or maybe an exclusive blog or whatever you're doing, exclusive videos, it could be a great way to capture emails and just make it free. Or you can have member areas that people have to pay and then you manually can just admit them to that member area. It's just something that you could do. I'm not going to get into that right now. It's definitely more of a fringe feature. It's definitely a little bit more advanced. Not everybody's really going to be interested in that. Otherwise, there's really nothing else that we need to touch on. You can add your business information. That's mostly going to be, I believe, in the footer on most of these pages, on most of these templates. So yeah, down here, if you're looking at that, then you can edit all of that over here. So just to recap on where we'd get that. So from home, if you go to settings, you can go down to business information and then flesh all of this out. And that will be translated into your footer down here, I believe. And if you don't want that, actually other ways, let's just go and edit the header and footer right now. I realized I didn't actually touch on that earlier. Okay, so to edit the header, I showed you guys that when you're hovering around here, you see the blue box around any of your sections. But if you just hover over the top, it should say edit site header. So there we go, edit site header. You click on that and you have three options here. You can edit globally, which means on everything, your mobile and your desktop site. Then you can edit just the desktop site or edit just the mobile site as well. And this could be good for, let's go back to the global one right here. The first thing is that you can have either a logo on the top or you can have the site title. Right now it's just the site title, so that is technically text right there. Sometimes it looks better, but sometimes if you have a good logo, you can go over to logo here and update or upload your site logo. So if you have a site logo, you just select, I don't know, any one of these. If we had like anything like, let's just use this, for example. We'll choose that, we'll upload that, and you'll see that it will pop up right there as soon as we have it. But if you don't want that, it's very easy just to, delete it and get rid of that. But you can test it out, see that obviously it's not going to look good right there. But you could edit the image as well by changing the height of it if you want to make it like a little taller or shorter. And you can change stuff like that. So I'm going to delete that. Obviously, it looked a lot better when it was just text up there. But you could also upload a mobile logo, like I said, and that would be good. So if you're on a mobile site, it would look slightly different because you are on a smaller screen. It definitely is something that you might be interested in doing. So let's go back. The other things we have are the elements on the top. So we do have that button on the right side, and the button, you can change what it says. So booking a class does not necessarily make sense, but you could say something like call us. Call us if somebody wants to know more about it. And if you click on this right here, we can actually change where that is redirecting. So we don't want to redirect to that. Probably not even a page. If it's call us, we probably want to go to a phone number. So we'll say 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. So that is our phone number. We can save that. And now when somebody clicks on that, it will just go to their phone app and it will be calling. Now, that's something that you could also add social links up on the top if you want to have those. They show up right there, and we'll set up the social icons in just a second. They're very easy to do. Actually, you can just do that right here as well. So you can say that if you want to have other socials, you can add them. By default, be careful because these do go to the Squarespace ones. If you don't go and update this, you will have Squarespace social icons linked on your website. That is not a good look. So you could say we don't want it. We don't want the Facebook one. Let's confirm and remove that one. And then maybe for Instagram, we just want to change that to my username, Mike O'Brien, with 2 N's. We'll say save, and then that is now going to redirect to my Instagram. If we click back, you'll see that the other things we have here, you can have a cart icon. We don't have any kind of online shopping right now, so that's not going to be there. But as soon as you add a store page, it should automatically show up on the top anyway. If it doesn't, this is where you would add the cart icon. If we go back, so that's pretty much everything here. If we go back, on top of that, we can have the colors if you want to change the colors of that. Currently, it's transparent. You could make it's like a solid one. Solid headers sometimes look good, but I think for a photography website, it looks pretty nice to see the picture go all the way up. Now, if we go over to the desktop or the mobile view, you'll see that we do have some, a couple more things we could do with the size of it and the layout of it. So if we go to layout, we can have like the logo and then the navigation here and the button over there. You could just rearrange how things actually look. So maybe something like that. For me, for this website, I really think that this is going to look the best. Maybe the button in the middle would look good, but they don't actually give that as an option. So we'll go back, and that's pretty much everything I wanted to show you as far as the header goes. Again, right here, the header layout, you can change it on mobile if you want. You can have the overlay menu if you want it to pop up like that. Now, I'm not going to do that right now, but we are going to head back to the standard view, and that is how we set up the header. Now, similarly, if you go down to the footer, you can click on Edit Footer, and editing the footer allows you to change individual things. This is actually just text, so I was wrong before when I said your business information would dynamically go right here. It looks like they just kind of typed it in for you in this demo, so that's a little bit unfortunate. You are going to want to go in here and edit this yourself, and of course, you can go back over and delete that right there. Definitely go down here, add all of your own information. These are going to be links, as you can tell, so if we go into this text, you'll see that each one. So we'll go into edit this text, and you'll see that each one, we actually don't need that up there, but each one of these is a link. So if you click on that, it links to the about page. You could type whatever you want and just add a link to that text. Very easy, like I showed you before, and that's how you do that. So we'll go up here, say done, we'll say save, and that's going to bring us back to where we were. Okay, so there's a couple more big things I want to show you in this video. The first thing is actually how to set up your blog. So if we go back to pages, a lot of websites are going to be looking to have a blog. It's something that I mentioned a little bit earlier on, and I didn't want to get into it too early in the video, but what you want to do is from the pages section right here, you want to go up to the main navigation. You could add it as a not linked page as well. I'm going to add it on the linked page up here, and we're just going to call this one blog. And we can go down here and we can actually create a blog collection. So the blog collection, you have a couple options here with how you want the blog to be laid out. So you can have just like big picture, big article. You can have kind of a grid layout. I think I'm going to go with this one. And you can also do it in any of the other sections or any other ways as well. So we're going to go to this section right here, or this layout. We're going to call this blog, and not blog 2, just regular blog. And we can change the settings like I showed you before, where, well, before we do this, it's going to drive us into there. We can change the settings by clicking on the gear icon here, and that'll change like the name of it, the URL slug. You can enable the page like I showed you guys before. I'll touch on SEO in just a second, but if you just click on that, it'll actually bring you into the blog editor. Now, the blog editor, it gives you a couple different samples right here just by default. So we're going to delete these. Let's delete this one. We don't need this post. We can delete this post. We can delete this post. Now, if we just click on this one, it'll actually go into the editor for that specific blog post. And from here, you'll see that it's very similar to the standard editor we were using. If we just click on edit on the top left, we can go and type in anything we want for the title. We can write everything we need to, and it's going to be the same builder we saw with individual pages. So if you're writing a whole bunch of stuff, so we're writing all of this stuff, I'm just going to make this look a little bit longer. And maybe you want an image down here. You just want to hover until you see the little bubble, and then you can go and add an image. So we can add an image that we uploaded, and it doesn't matter. I'm just going to use this image here just as a sample image. We're going to apply that one. And then down here, we want to add maybe some more text. So we can go and add some more text. And actually, what you saw right there is I actually accidentally clicked that and dragged it over to the left. Let's bring that down to the bottom underneath it. There we go. So now it's on the bottom. That's where we wanted it. So the image, it looks like that image never uploaded. Let's try that again. So then you can add a caption below your images, and below that you probably want to add some more text. And let's just say that down here we want to add some text with a picture on the one side of it. So what we want to do is go down and we will add, you could add a card if you're interested in that. That might make things easier. Or you could just go to text again. So we're going to add some more text, and then we're going to add an image below that and drag it over to one side. So we'll add an image below that. And so for this image, I'm just going to upload really any one of these images. Again, let's go with this one right here, a nice little desert photo. And once that uploads, we will click apply. So it's just going to take a second to upload. There we go, apply. And then we can click and drag this over to the right. We can either add it in there, so you get the little blue box. You could add it to the right of the entire thing, but I want to put it right there in the blue box. So there we go. So now it's kind of in line with this. You can change the size of it or where it's going to press the text out of the way. And that's how you'd really want to lay out inline images like that during your blog. And that's something that a lot of people definitely use quite a bit. So it's something I highly recommend to make your blog more readable and just more pleasant to look at in general. So it's not just a massive essay like this. So maybe like up here, we want to add another image. So I'm going to add an image above it and we'll drag it down into place. So let's upload another image. We will upload this one right here, something that kind of fades to white. I think that it could be a cool look. And then once it's uploaded, I think you guys are getting the idea. We'll just click and drag this until we see that blue box. So apply, click and drag that down. So we'll scroll down and we will make that a blue box right there. So it looks like, there we go. So now it's in line. That's exactly what I was looking for. And so for a blog post, that's pretty much what you're going to be interested in doing. So we are going to say done, save that one, and then we can actually either publish that, which this one already is published, but you could instead save it as a draft, or you could just schedule it as well. So I'll show you guys that in a second. But right here, it says that our site is currently actually only private. Since we already got the domain, everything's ready to go, I'm going to publish the site. So right here, we can go from private, which is, again, if you wanted to access this not from that little banner on the bottom, the way you would do this is going from home down to settings and then go to site availability. Currently, it's private. We're going to make this public. Save. And now our website should be public. Let's copy that. We'll visit that in a second to see what it actually looks like. But back from here, back from our blog. So if we go back to home, pages, blog. Now from your blog page, you can actually click on the three dots and you can either duplicate that if you want to use the same exact template for another blog. It's something that I like to do to be consistent sometimes. It also saves you some work. But you can also go to settings and you have quite a few options here. The first one is whether or not this is a published blog. So if you want this to be scheduled, you can go down here and create a schedule and release it on a certain date. You could also just publish it live right now. You could save it as a draft, or you could save it as something that needs review, meaning you wrote it, you're ready to go, but you just want to read over it before you actually send it on its way. We have our options down here. So you have a thumbnail image. By default was the first image in there, and you can change this thumbnail image. You can change where it's centered with this little thing here. And then, of course, we have our image URL, our blog URL. You obviously don't want this to be really messy for SEO purposes, but also for navigation purposes, so it's easier for people to find it and know what they're looking at. So we could just say, my camera gear. Maybe that's what this blog is about. We can set whoever the author is. I'm just going to leave it as myself. And we can go down here and have an excerpt. So this is going to be what's showing up underneath your blog. So on the main page, you're going to have a little excerpt that shows, like, you'll see the image, the title, and then really what the blog is about. So this is going to be just a short little paragraph describing what your blog is about to get people enticed to click on it. This is not the same thing you'll see on Google. In fact, we can go down to SEO now, and you'll see right here, this is how it's showing up on Google. So you see the URL now looks a lot better. We can add an SEO title. So we can say, it doesn't necessarily have to be the blog title. This could be best camera gear for photographers. 2021. There we go. And then down here, you have your SEO description, your little meta description right here. Right now, it's going to be that, but you want it to be about, this has 400 characters. I usually recommend a little bit less than that. 400 seems like a lot. I aim for like 250 or maybe even 150, just because depending on if they're on a mobile or a desktop site, you want to make sure they can read the entire thing. Now going down, we also have social image. So if somebody's sharing this on Facebook, this is the image that's going to be shown to them. For this particular article, maybe you want a different image. So it's not just your site logo. Maybe you want this image right here. And then it will be our alternate social sharing image. Again, it is optional. Otherwise, they just show your logo right there or your social image that we selected for the global settings. But you'll see right here, this probably is more relevant for this specific article. You can go down and share it, and you can actually set a location for this as well if you're interested, but then just click on save, and that's everything you need to know about that first blog post. If you want another blog post, we'll go up and click the plus button, and you'll see that it brings us right back to exactly where we were. That's why I generally like to duplicate blogs, so you don't have to start from scratch every time, but I'm going to say done, and we're going to just exit that one and not even worry about that. Now, with that being said, let's head back to the main navigation. And I said I was going to talk about some SEO. We did touch on it for blogs right there, but for other pages, let's just say for our home page here, we can go and click on the gear icon, and you see the general settings. I talked about really making sure this is all correct with the name, the URL slug. But then SEO, search engine optimization, is going to be how you're ranking on Google. So you want Google to be able to find this, and by default, it has your website SEO settings right here. So it's going to be like the name of your site, your domain, and then a little description right here that is automatically generated. We could edit that for this being our home page, or we can go to individual pages and edit that here as well. So for the About page, if we go to SEO, you can add your own little description. So I'm going to add our meta description there, which is currently too long. Again, I like to keep that around 200 something characters. I recommend checking this out. If you can find it on Google, it is an early website, but if you can find this on Google and see what it actually looks like on a phone or a laptop, you'll notice that sometimes it is different. So like right here, it is actually going to cut off right around here. So I believe that's going to be like 200 characters. Or 240 is what it says. All right. Anyway, so as we go down here, you can hide it from search results. Most pages, you don't need to do that. Social image, again, is right there. And then advanced is if you really want to add some other code specifically for this page that's not necessarily SEO related, but it could be for like a header code or whatever you're doing. Otherwise, let's go back and save this, and that is how we are going to set up our search engine optimization. Now, another great tool I like to use, so if we go over here and go to santrelmedia.com/SEMrush, this is something that I also recommend. So it's something that I've been using for a while. When you're trying to do some keyword research and you want to better understand like what blog articles you should write that are going to rank well, SEO research is something, keyword research is something that I do highly recommend. So SEMrush is one that we've been using. It's a great way to go and find keywords. It shows you competitive websites, what they're ranking for, and you can easily go to find smaller websites that are about your size, look at what their best articles are, and start to figure out what they're doing that's making those articles perform so well. And so if you find topics that are performing particularly well for other websites, you could just kind of apply similar ones to your own website. Obviously, don't copy them directly. But if, for example, if you're talking about like top 5 of something, maybe, hey, top 5 lists are really popular. I'm going to make a top 5 list of my own on my own blog, more relevant to whatever your subject is. And then maybe that is going to perform well as well. So great ways to go about doing that. SEMrush, again, is something that we've been using and we do recommend. All right, so guys, that's pretty much everything I wanted to show you in this video. Really, like I said, you want to make sure that you're looking at your website on a desktop view as well as a mobile view to make sure that everything looks good. Nothing's cut off, no text is unreadable on the photos. And the last thing to do once you're published is just go check it out actually on your own. So we'll go and paste that right there. Check out our website. It should be live. Here it is. This is our brand new website. Again, you saw how easy this was to make. I put almost no effort into this, and it's already a great looking website. As long as you have great photos and just really good colors, everything seems to look really nice and just works very, very well. Now, down here, the Instagram that I never actually ended up setting up is right there. So guys, that's everything I have for you in this video. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, consider liking and commenting down below. Share this video with anybody else out there that you think maybe is looking to make a website of their own. And as always, guys, I wish you the best of luck making your website. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.